All right, go for it, Valerie.
So my presentation is why news is important in our daily lives. So according to the Boston Globe Spotlight team, more than 130 people have come forward with horrific childhood tales about former priest John Jenin, who raped boys since the 1990s. The priest was transferred to 7 different parishes and institutions to treat sexually abusive priests. After the story was revealed, Jenin was put on trial. If it had not been for the Spotlight News reporters, this horrific story would never have been revealed. News is important in our lives in order to keep society safe. So my main points are why paying for print media is important, why breaking and current news is important, and why news is the best source of information, and how news is important to create political and social justice. So this is a video about print news.
Journalists, the heroes that we root for in movies like All the President's Men, The Great Muppet Caper, and most recently, Spotlight.
We gotta nail these scumbags. We gotta show people that nobody can get away with this. Not a priest or a cardinal or a freaking pope.
Now remember, Spotlight actually won Best Picture at the Oscars this year, meaning newspapers finally received the recognition that we normally reserve for subjects of such importance as the incredible bravery of real-life Hollywood filmmakers, the incredible bravery of fictional Hollywood filmmakers, and the incredible bravery of wanting to f*** your daughter's friends. But one of the things that made Spotlight so powerful is the knowledge that the newspaper industry today is in big trouble. Papers have been closing and downsizing for years, and that affects all of us. Even if you only get your news from Facebook, Google, Twitter, or Ariana Huffington's Block Junction and Book Excerpts Clearinghouse, those places are often just repackaging the work of newspapers, and it is not just websites. Watch how often TV news ends up citing print sources.
According to the Chicago Tribune,
According to the Detroit Free Press,
According to the San Francisco Chronicle, according to the Times-Picayune,
the Boston Globe,
the Orlando Sentinel,
the Philadelphia Inquirer,
the Pittsburgh Tribune Review,
the Detroit News, and the Houston Chronicle reports.
the Los Angeles Times reports, the Oklahoman reports, the Hartford Current reports, the Salt Lake Tribune reports.
It's pretty obvious, without newspapers around to cite, TV news would just be Wolf Blitzer endlessly batting a ball of yarn around.
So basically, the importance of that was that print news is the main source of news, and without it, we wouldn't get the accuracy that we have today. With everything, since it's always recycled through TV, Facebook, and Google, and actually Google and Facebook get the advertising revenues, but the journalists don't actually get the same revenues and that they deserve for all the work that they do. So this is why paying for print news is important. According to the American Press Institute, the future of journalism will depend on consumers paying for news directly. A study conducted found that out of 2,199 adults, 53% subscribe to news outlets, and roughly half of that subscribe to newspapers, the main source of news. 37% of young adults, 18 to 34, subscribe to news. And this says 26% who use source for free might begin to pay for it. So everyone's getting news for free, and they're not willing to pay for it once you already are getting it for free. And since young adults aren't really willing to pay, the future really is in our hands to bring print news back to life and give them the revenues that they deserve for giving us the information that we already obtained. So this is why breaking and current news is important. Current events and breaking news is how we learn about the world and its solutions. It is how the public gets information on these issues that are currently in place. It is also essential for our safety. Some of Time Magazine, USA Today, and Pix11 current and breaking news includes 305 worshippers killed in Egypt, Moscow attack. This is the Las Vegas shooting unfolding quickly, reported by USA Today. And this was actually a local news article from my hometown. 2 injured, reports of shots fired in New York Mall. That's my mall, and my mom was actually in that mall, hiding in the back. So if I hadn't gotten that from Twitter, that news article, I wouldn't have known and thought to call her and stuff to see if she is okay. But breaking news is important because we get the news that like right then. Like it'll interrupt what you're watching on TV. It'll interrupt what you're doing on social media, and tell you what you need to do to stay safe and keep your family safe. So news is important because it makes a good citizen. According to educationworld.com, children who read newspapers become informed citizens and lifelong news readers. Studying current events helps students understand the importance of people, events, and issues in news. It stimulates students to explore and learn more about the news and to pay attention to the news they see and hear outside of school. So when students learn the importance of news, they will become better citizens because they're more aware of everything that's happening around them, just like politics or business or whatever career they would like to pursue, because there's many different options that you can learn about. This is ethics in news and why you should trust the news medias, because according to the Society of Professional Journalists, public enlightenment is the forerunner of justice and the foundation of democracy. Ethical journalism strives to ensure free exchange and information that is accurate, fair, and thorough. So every news outlet has a code of ethics and fact checkers so that we get accurate news. And that is why a lot of people have that stigma of fake news when actually Time Magazine and different other outlets have their own code of ethics to follow, and if not, they would get in a lot of trouble for that, because the consumption of fake news is a big deal. News is there to inform society and to keep you news is there to keep you informed in society and in touch with the world around you. So, political and social justice. News outlets are meant to bring social and political justice, questioning people in power. This was the story of Cyntoia Brown, reported by NBC News. She was a 16-year-old who was in prostitution by her pimp, and she actually solicited sex to a 43-year-old, and when she thought he was reaching for a gun, she shot him and robbed him, and was sentenced to life in prison as an adult, even though she was 16, and sex trafficked. So this was all over in social media, and different news outlets reported it, and actually everyone is starting to sign a petition to get justice for her in a retrial because she was tried unfairly. And this is Tamir Rice, reported by New York Times. He was a 12-year-old who was holding a pellet gun and actually was shot by a police officer. So this is one of the many reports about police brutality that we were aware of by the news outlets, and that was reported everywhere. So news is important because it sheds a social justice and light to people who might want to manipulate the public and hide these stories. So trust reliable news sources. Today we live in a world where our president is the only president that has questioned the media, and especially the news media. And he claims that there's fake news and that articles that are shedding him in a dark light are inaccurate, and kind of questioning the ethics of it all. And that doesn't go to show that there isn't fake news, but there are reliable media outlets that you can look at that will keep you informed on what's actually going on, like Time Magazine, LA Times, the Huffington Post, and the New York Times. So this is the importance to pay for your news. 21% say that they would pay $5, and 10% say that they would pay $10 for their news. 77% say that they wouldn't, and 89% that they wouldn't pay for $5 for their news, and 89% say that they wouldn't pay for $10. This goes to show that it is important to pay for your news so that we get accurate information in the future, since we are the future of this world. We're the young generation. And my main points were why paying for print media is important, why breaking and current news is important, and how news educates people in good citizenship, as well as why news is the best source of information, and how news is important to create political and social justice.